Welcome, listeners, to a brand new episode of JPool's GNERD Corner. Hi there, listeners. I am your host, JPool, from JPool's GNERD Corner, and I'm here with an enthusiastic audience. Yes, that's not just a recording I decided to put in, to splice in to pretend that I have an audience in my studio. I'm not in my studio this week. I am here at Comic and Media Expo 2015. And I actually have people, real live people. They're breathing. I think they're breathing. I mean, I could check their pulse, but last time I was sued. But then again, that wasn't their pulse, and it was their chest, and it was a woman. And I think that was a minor as well. But that was, the lawsuit, I didn't read all the words of the lawsuit. So, I am here with all these people, and I'm glad you're here. I'm glad the listeners are listening in to this quote-unquote live podcast recording, all right? It's not live. But
we're in front of a live studio audience.
Yes, it's for in front of you guys. But for the listeners that are listening, that will listen like a few days from now. So what I'm going to be talking about is just a bunch of random things. Mostly stuff in the entertainment industry and movies. Some really cool movies. Some really interesting news. And some really disappointing news, unfortunately. So let's start with the disappointing news. Because we need a little more disappointment in life. Sadness is important. Remember, sadness is important. You can't always be joyful. Unless my phone is joyful. For some reason, I keep getting messages. All right, so one of the sad news is Fox decided to keep Fantastic Four franchise. It really sucks. After a huge rumor that went out in the ether, and all the comic book and geeky websites decided to report on it, that Marvel might be getting the rights to it. A day later, Fox squashed our hopes and dreams and then shit on them. That's a PG-13 word. I can say that. Yes, for the listeners who don't know, this is not an 18-plus panel, even though most of my podcasts are rated M. Rated M for mature. That's an unfortunate thing because I enjoy the Fantastic Four. I've read them for so many years. And when I saw the film, which I quote-unquote downloaded it, quote-unquote allegedly, because I'm not going to say where or how, because I'm not going to give the studio any money. All right? They screwed up. This is their third chance. And I still go back, even though they've owned the Fantastic Four franchise for a while. I like the original ones from 2005 much better than this one. This one was disgraceful. If you are a comic book fan and you love the Fantastic Four, then don't watch this because you'll want to jump off a building afterwards. I wouldn't recommend it. I can do it because I'm Deadpool and I heal, but I wouldn't recommend it for you. I was angry when I was watching the film. It's like watching a movie that's split into three movies, three different storylines. Like the director and the studio and the producers had no idea what to do with the film. And then you also have the actors who are supposed to play these iconic characters. And I love these actors. These are really good actors. Miles Teller, Kate Mara, Michael B. Jordan. And wow, this is not a Fantastic Four film. They didn't even get into the Fantastic Four team up until the last 15 minutes of the film. This is not a lie. And the last quote-unquote fight scene was crap. It went by so quickly and really didn't have an explanation on how it ended. And then it's like, yes, we're a team now. Oh, no. It bombed. And there's a reason for it bombed. The director didn't believe in it. The studio didn't believe in it, but then the studio's like aghast, like, oh, how did it fail? Because you didn't believe in it in the first place. You didn't want to take the source material at all. You said none of the actors had to, read the source material. They wanted to make their own thing, and this is what happens when you don't follow stuff that's already there, right in front of you, so many years. They go back to, what, 1960, if I remember correctly? Yeah, they're that old. And they have so many decades of storylines, but they decide to make Doctor Doom once again, and this time he is a crash test dummy that has eaten a bunch of glow sticks and went to a rave. I'm not lying. If you look at a picture online of what Doctor Doom looks like, that's what he looks like. It's horrible. There's no explanation to why he is the way he is, why he's so angry at the world, and why he wants to go back to the planet. There's no explanation about that. But he can make people's heads explode and have inconsistent powers. But that's just my rant. I actually have a video on YouTube of me just ranting my Deadpool mask about how much, this is before I saw the movie, how much I was angry at what they were doing with the film. Let's go to another unfortunate story, which is the cancellation of Defiance. Now, Sci-Fi had a really good thing going for them. The first season it started off, in my opinion, a little slow with Defiance, but really revved up, like really in the middle of the season. And last season of Defiance, of season 3, was one of my favorite seasons. It was incredible. Anybody that has watched Defiance on Sci-Fi can attest to this. They actually, for last year's Sci-Fi, they also had Sci-Fi Friday come back, which I was excited about. They had Defiance, Killjoys, and what was the other one? Dark Matter, yes. Which is available on Netflix right now, so you can watch the first season. But I was actually just shocked the other day. I mean, what was it? I think it was like Friday. No, it was Thursday. It was Thursday they came out and said officially that after 3 years, Defiance was canceled. And I'm shocked because it actually had huge ratings for Sci-Fi. This must be something of, they must are trying to save money or something at Sci-Fi. I have no idea. I mean, when you have huge ratings for a show, you'd think.
They got other projects coming up.
I know, but seriously, Defiance is a huge fan base. I mean, the video game is not that good. I'll admit that. I downloaded it, and I don't play it often because of the stupid updates. Every time you play it, there's an update, and you have to sit there for an hour. But the show was really good. It had really good characters. It had a really good cast, good storylines, and I think it's just a travesty. Another good sci-fi show gone. I'm afraid that Minority Report, I don't know if anybody has actually gotten to sit down and watch the Minority Report. It hasn't been officially canceled, but it has been originally slated for 13 episodes, and they cut it down to 10. That's a bad sign. Fox doesn't do well with sci-fi shows. We all know this. We all know this. I don't know why the other studios that are backing these shows decide, oh, let's put it on Fox, because we know it'll survive for one season.
14 episodes.
Yes. And out of order, too. Seriously. You try to watch it, the original Firefly series, when it first aired, and they completely screwed that up by showing episodes out of order, which made people confused on what was going on. Did the same thing with Almost Human. They showed the episodes out of order.
And it got canceled.
And it got canceled, and I love that. I even told Carl Urban at Phoenix Comic Con this year that I loved him in Almost Human. So, I don't know, if they can't survive on sci-fi, sci-fi shows can't really survive on sci-fi that the fans really love, then where do we go? I mean, should we petition them to go to like Netflix or Amazon or Hulu? They seem to be picking up shows. And they're doing a really good job with it. I mean, they don't measure ratings like the Nielsen ratings, which in my opinion, in this day and age, they should just scrap the Nielsen ratings system. Because we have DVRs, we have what used to be TiVo, but we have DVRs. A lot of us can't watch a show live, and a lot of us don't have Nielsen rating boxes. So really, how can you get a really good average of what people are watching? Netflix knows what you're watching. It knows when you sleep, because it knows if you're awake in the middle of the night and decide to like watch Nymphomaniac or something like that because you don't want anybody else to know that you watched that film. Then you realize it's actually a really bad film. But remember to erase your history afterwards. Or just make yourself a new account. Netflix and Hulu have done a really interesting job, and really good job, at looking at the algorithms of what people watch. And they know if you even skip through a show. They know if you fast forward through a show. They know, where you stopped and where you want to begin again. That's kind of scary, but using those algorithms, they can also tell, okay, so people watched Daredevil like 100,000 times this week. We're going to give them a sequel. We're going to give them a second season. And that's awesome. Try telling that to network televisions. They can't measure those ratings in real time. Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon, especially Netflix, can measure those algorithms. They have people working there 24/7, looking at what people are watching, looking at, okay, the amount of people are watching Longmire. Okay, so if they love this season, we're going to give it a couple more months, and then we'll probably, give it a 5th season, which, cross your fingers, I love that show, Longmire. And Netflix, they have these incredible shows that are produced by Netflix. They're not just getting shows from other networks that decide to drop their shows. They're also making their own shows. If anybody remembers, Netflix originally started off as a disc rental system. And it now has blossomed into its own studio. How cool is that? And they're revered. They're revered almost for the reason of taking down Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, in my opinion. Digital streaming and Redbox and getting discs from Netflix, Blockbuster and Hollywood Video just didn't update with the times. That's one of the reasons that they went. And that's unfortunate, because I think we're all old enough to remember going to the store and renting a movie, a VHS. Remember VHSs? If we had younger people in this room, they'd be like, what? What's a VHS?
Don't fit in my act.
Yes. They're trying to get the VHS pushed in their phone. We can't watch the movie that way. Oh, younglings. But we're all old enough to remember that. We're all old enough to remember what we had, Blockbuster or Hollywood Video accounts. But these days, streaming is the thing. Netflix, more people are streaming than they are renting movies. So, I've gone on from, the cancellation defiance just to talking about Netflix. But I love Netflix. It helps me catch up with television shows that I never really got to watch or I want to rewatch. It's a really cool service, and it's cheap. Even though they just updated $1, it's $9.99, or $10 technically, a month for thousands of television shows and hundreds of movies, maybe even more, depending on the licensing they get. I think it's worth it. I spent almost $3-4 a film renting when I was Hollywood Video or Blockbuster. So I think it's a really good deal. And it usually can work on a family account, so you can get multiple devices throughout the house, which is pretty cool. Watching on your Kindle or your Xbox or PS4 or your television or anything that streams Netflix. That's pretty cool. Now let's get into another thing, and this is more of for film fans. Now, coming this December, it's going to be a huge event. And I'm not talking about convention. I'm talking about something in the movie theaters.
Star Wars, Star Wars.
Oh, yes. How many Star Wars fans I have here? Who's going to be seeing it? Well, I don't know how many midnight showings there are, but who's going to be seeing it the day before at special screenings? Yes, definitely. For the listeners that don't know, there were hands being raised. Last question, only a few. But still, we have Star Wars fans in here. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Ever since I was a youngling, and I'm like 30, but still. I watched all the Star Wars films over and over again, and then I cried when the prequels came out, and then I cried again, because realizing how crappy they were. But, you know what? Give it to the third one, at least. Just a little bit, all right? Kind of saying, I'm sorry.
It was decent.
It was decent, you know, compared to the, you know, like the first one.
Yeah.
And then the second one, Attack of the Clones, kind of throwing everything at the wall.
A love story.
Yeah, they kept throwing everything at the wall, and then the love story, it really slowed it down. I can give you an example of a love story really slowing a movie down. Daredevil with Ben Affleck. And I know a lot of people give crap about this film, and I completely tell them that, you know what? Watch the director's cut. Because a lot of people don't, and a lot of people haven't seen the director's cut. They've only seen the theatrical version, and they can only give you, you know, a decent review about the theatrical version. And when they watch the director's cut, they realize they cut the love story from the movie, and they added another story, which is Matt Murdock as a lawyer during the day, defending a character that might be guilty of something, but and it's played by Coolio. It's actually a really interesting storyline. And we get to see Matt Murdock out of the Daredevil costume in a more darker, edgier way. And it changes what you might think of the movie originally, because a lot of people complained about the love story between him and Elektra and how that kind of really slowed the film down. They completely take it out on the director's cut.
So more like how the show is now.
Yeah, how more shows now. I'm not saying Ben Affleck's acting was much improved. I did enjoy him more as playing Matt Murdock than he did as playing Daredevil. So that was cool. Have any of you watched the new Daredevil show on Netflix? I know you'd have.
Yeah, like halfway through.
Halfway through. Well, what do you think about it so far?
It's good. It was a little bit slow starting off, I thought. But, I mean, I like it. It's a lot edgier. It's a lot different, obviously, than... Well, I haven't seen the director's cut of the movie, but obviously it's a lot different than the theatrical version of the movie.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what do you think about the Netflix one?
Oh, I like it.
Oh, yeah, you do? Okay, yeah. The Netflix one, especially because it's on Netflix, and we're back to Netflix again. Because it's on Netflix, they can do so much with it that they couldn't do in even the films. And that's almost leading over to, can they do Marvel Max on Netflix? They're bringing Jessica Jones in, which will be premiering in November. I believe November 20th, I believe, on Netflix. And I think that's like a 13-episode run for her. Jessica Jones is an interesting character. For a lot of comic book fans, for average readers, they have no idea who she is. For hardcore Marvel fans, they know exactly who she is. She runs an investigation group called Alias Investigations, and she's a former superhero called Jewel that decided to quit because of the Purple Man. And the Purple Man will be played by David Tennant, a.k.a. the 10th Doctor. The Purple Man has the ability to speak to you and make you do whatever he wants to. He's technically a puppet master, but he uses his vocals to control you. He releases these pheromones that control you. He controlled her for months. And they can't do this, unfortunately, because Fox owns the rights to X-Men, but the way she got out of being controlled by the Purple Man was Jean Grey. So they're going to have to change it a little bit. But it's cool. You know, they don't need to use X-Men in here. But it's still cool that they gave her super strength and powers and everything. We're going to be introduced to Luke Cage. And if the name Cage sounds familiar, the end of Cage, it's the reason Nicolas Cage is why he's named Nicolas Cage. It was his favorite Marvel character growing up. And so his actual name is Nicholas Coppola. He's a Coppola. But he wanted a stage name. So he picked his favorite Marvel character, which was Luke Cage. And so now he's Nicolas Cage. So that's pretty cool for anybody who had no idea originally how he got his name. Because you'd be surprised how many stars don't actually have their actual name. It's all about stage names. But no, I'm really looking forward to Marvel's Jessica Jones. It's going to be different. She was one of the first comic books in Marvel to have the Max slapped on it because of hard language, violence, and nudity. And then they went on to Punisher Max. They went to Howard the Duck Max. There were several other Max comic books, but she was one of the first to be published as Max. So if you are looking for it, if you liked Daredevil, you will like Jessica Jones. And the actress, I like her anyway, Kristen Ritter. I think she'll do a really good job as Jessica Jones. So yes, let's get back to Star Wars. So because we went way over and we segued. It happens a lot during podcasting. Sometimes you can keep it in for fun, or if you want to keep on the subject matter, you can edit it and just splice things together. Sometimes I'm too lazy and I like to just keep it in because, you know, the segues can be fun, and, especially if you have co-hosts talking to you. So Star Wars Force Awakens will be introducing some really cool characters, including a little bitty android that a lot of fans saw. Oops, there goes my recorder. A lot of fans saw and thought was a CGI effect in the first trailer. They had no idea that the thing was actually a practical effect. Now, did anybody get to see at what was it, the last Star Wars Celebration, when they introduced BB-8 to the crowd? Yeah. There's a video online where they bring BB-8 out and they roll him out on stage, and this is the BB-8 they used on set. J.J. Abrams said that he wanted something for the actors to work with, you know, because they work enough with green balls and sticks. But there's really no emotion to that green ball and stick. They just have to use their acting skills to act with it. And it's a lot easier to act with something that is looking at you, it's beeping at you, and it's moving around you. And so they devised, I forgot the company's name, but they actually devised and invented a really cool new droid that rolls on this little ball, and the head itself is magnetically secured on the ball, but is allowed to move freely around it, not connected directly to the ball, but just by magnets. It's really cool, and it's controlled, remote control, and rolls around. So they use that in the desert for the desert scenes, and you know, when you see it in the first trailer, it looks like a CGI effect because we're so used to the CGI effects in Star Wars. We've kind of become spoiled with CGI, and J.J. Abrams is one of us. In my opinion, he's one of us. He loves, you know, he did 2 Star Treks. That really wasn't his passion. When the producers asked him, "Can you write a Star Trek movie?" he looked at them and said, "Truthfully, I can't write a Star Trek movie, but I can write a Star Wars movie." So that's one of the reasons why Star Trek has a very Star Wars-y feel to it. And if anybody has the Blu-ray, if you, for the first Star Trek, with J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, as they're coming into the debris field, like coming out of warp and going into the debris field, if you pause it, on the right side, you'll see R2-D2 floating in the debris field. It's really cool. It doesn't make any sense, but he's like, "I'm going to direct Star Wars." He's a huge Star Wars nerd, and that's good for us.
Yeah, which is why it'll be good.
That if you've seen, there's a little video online that's been circulating for months now that shows a lot of the practical effects they're going to be using. A lot of the aliens are done with the big suits and big heavy masks, and especially in the really hot deserts, they have a lot of the actors with like wet washcloths on their heads, but a lot of them are just happy to be in it because they're in these iconic suits. They're in these suits that they haven't done for such a long time because we've seen so much CGI. It's mostly, you know, people in green screen, you know, suits, unfortunately. and the audience can tell what's real and what's not. So they also have the film, which is going to be actually on film, which is, a lot of people are not doing that these days. To see the actual film reel spinning in the camera, that is awesome. That is something that hasn't been done for a while, and having somebody like J.J. Abrams being such a big fan of the series and knowing what the fans like, that's what we need. That's what most of us like in a certain genre of anything. We should have a director who's very passionate about the project, instead of somebody goes, you know what, I want my vision. I've never read those comic books or never seen those movies in the past. I want my vision to be heard and seen. It's like, no, because you don't know what we like, and unfortunately you'll probably screw it up, and 70 to 80% of the time they'll screw it up unless some magical thing happens and they do something that's groundbreaking. So that's pretty much I'm getting to the point of about to give away stuff, because I'm getting to the end of my time here. So that's the end of this podcast right here. I would like to thank my listeners for, especially my audience. Yeah, for listening in. Please visit our website or my Facebook at facebook.com/jpoolsgnerd corner. You can visit the website at jpoolsgnerdcorner.wordpress.com. I'm also on Instagram at GNERD Corner and Twitter, GNERD Corner. And I have cards later on for my live audience. And remember, enjoy your chimichanga. All right, so that was